It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Wrap Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wrap Podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as always, Harley and James. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we?
Good evening. I'm not too bad, gents. How are we all?
Yeah, not bad. Ready for another week of positivity and definitely not pessimism.
I think people can hear the gritted teeth, James. So Jamie's not with us tonight. He's been a good boy. He's got family stuff to do, but he will be back next week. Is anybody else getting a little bit suspicious that Jamie's got family stuff to do on the weekend when we review Newport and Leinster? Anybody else suspicious of that?
It's not great timing, but I guarantee he'll be back when Newport play 2015 All Blacks next week. So, when they inevitably smash us.
In fairness, you can't go slagging you can't go slagging off Newport by pretending they're the Dragons, because Newport beat Cardiff, and that's something that Dragons can never do.
Oh, fuck, we're going off on one now, boys, and we.
This is where I reveal I'm actually Owen Robbins, and it's been a ruse all along.
Don't be silly. You actually support rugby in Wales.
See, we're heading down the right. Let's do drink of the week quick before this starts getting into dangerous areas. So, who wants to go first for drink of the week? Harley, go on. You go first, man. You got your drink.
Yeah, because if for people watching on the video, they'll have noticed me pulling up a pint of water, but that isn't my drink of the week. What I've actually got is Golden Harvest cider from Rich's Cider Company. Yeah, it's a very nice medium dry cider. I haven't gone anywhere particularly fancy. I did have a very nice beer, but my wife went, "Oh, I need a beer to put in the in the beef stew," and poured my beer into the stew.
Was it?
And I've forgotten what it was, and I didn't think to grab the can back to tell you what it was. But it made an absolutely lovely beef stew.
Okay, so at least there was some enjoyment somewhere. At least.
It's a standard thing. Normally, I get bought in bottles of ale and stuff, and if it's one I'm not particularly fussed on, Rachel will cook with it. We don't cook with wine in our house. We cook with ale.
But we used to have this. People used to buy red wine for us for some reason. And I can't stand red wine, and my wife can't stand red wine. So we just used to put it in
chilies and stuff.
Yeah, you just chuck it in, and away you go, and all that kind of stuff. And then somebody gave us something for like Christmas, and we're like, so we chucked it in a New Year's special thing. Oh, this is quite nice. And then they went, "Did you enjoy that red wine that we got you?" Oh, yeah. Oh, it was one of those special ones, it's one of those like really expensive bottles. And we're sitting there going like, Oh, yeah, we had it over Christmas. It was lovely, like, like 25, 30 quid a bottle for this. Well, fuck it, chuck it in there, chuck it in the stew. So, anyway, James.
Basic tonight. I've had a really, really rough day in work, so I've gone for a comically large bottle of Budweiser. One of the
I was
really
about to
big
say,
ones.
you're really small, or was that a big bottle?
No, that is one of the really, really big ones I got as like I got a bunch of beers when I left my last job from parents of kids that I worked with. So I'm slowly working my way through them big bottles of beers. But it's been one of the days of work, so I needed something easy and drinkable tonight. So a lot of Bud for me.
See, I love the fact that parents buy teachers alcohol because it's like you need this. You've been looking after my kids for a while. You're going to need something strong for this. My wife used to be a teacher, so I know the feeling, mate.
Yeah, something like that.
So mine this week. So I didn't go shopping this week. I normally do the shopping, so I didn't go shopping because I had open uni stuff to do. So I asked the wife to select me a beer, and she selected me a bottle of the St. Austell Brewery Proper Job IPA, which is 5.5%. And
it's a lovely pint.
Yeah, it's normally
St. Austell. I'm gonna plug some local produce here, but St. Austell are absolutely one of the better breweries. Them and Otter Brewery, which I think because I live in Ottery, St. Mary, I have to say Otter Brewery. But actually, the Otter bitter is one of the nicest bitters you'll ever find. But yeah, St. Austell's and the Proper Job is fantastic. I believe St. Austell's also do one called Yellowhammer, which they brought out around COVID time because of the Yellowhammer report. And that is a very, very nice one as well. But yeah, there's some very good beers around here.
I mean, for me, normally an IPA is an IPA. It's a standard kind of thing. But this one does actually, it's got a bit of punch to it when it goes in, and doesn't look like orange squash, which to me, that's a beer. Yeah. So speaking of beers, and we'll come to 3 Word Thoughts later, but there was a little bit of an offshoot from 3 Word Thoughts where somebody asked, should they be opening a brewery, or should they open a Twitter page for a brewery? It was kind of like Ken.
Oh, yes, I saw this. Yeah.
So I obviously replied and went, yes, you should. And then you should sponsor us and give us some beer for the drink of the week. And the guy went, sounds good to me. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. So we'll keep an eye on that one. So, I'll take any little hint on that. But don't tell Jamie, just in case, we don't want to interfere with Jamie's love affair with Tiny Rebel. So, yeah. Right, let's get on and do some stuff. Now, do you want a news desk introduction, James, or do you just want to do it?
Absolutely not. No,
because I have got one.
No, I reckon you save it for Jamie next week just to equally wind him up.
It's quite good.
I'm good.
It's quite good.
Do you know what? I'm all right. I'm okay. But I will do news desk regardless.
Go on, then. You go do news desk.
Well, a bit of news since we've last been on air. Most recently, the Dragons have announced that former outside half Paul Turner will be working with the club on a consultancy basis for the remainder of the 2023-24 season. In the follow-up tweet, they said Turner will assist with player recruitment, developing scouting links, and supporting the club's pathway system. He will also take on a mentoring role with coaches at the club and have an advisory role with the new board of Dragons RFC. Any thoughts on that, gents? It's been heavily rumoured for the last couple of days with various different articles coming out, some hinting at tension, but that was just speculation. Good move, shrewd move. What are we thinking?
So. Yeah, I think he's. I've always rated him as a top coach wherever he's gone. He's used to working on kind of shoestring budgets in the past and developing some really good players. He was a hell of a player. Should have got further when he was playing, but not everybody. Just because you're a good player doesn't mean you transition to a coach, and he's definitely one of those players just transitioned to coaching really, really well. And I think the Dragons will benefit from it. I really do. in all sorts of directions. So yeah, it's a good move for the Dragons.
I mean, you
Ali?
saw how, sorry, you saw how much having Lee Blackett come in and just sort of give a helping hand to Dwayne Peel, because obviously Dwayne Peel's still a fairly fledgling head coach, as is Di Flanagan. So actually having someone there to sort of say, no, this help, just to help them with some of the take some of the heat off, some of the pressure, and help them get used to the job so they can focus on getting the team ready, and just having someone to sound off. So so I believe it. So the Wales and Lions Welsh Rugby pod, they had Tristan Bevan on, and he was saying like one of the biggest thing, the most important thing he learned was as a coach was to use other people as a sounding board, and just having some fresh ideas, having asking more people who've had a bit more experience their opinions and things, because it just sort of helps you formulate your own thing. I mean, let's be fair, we all need advice at time to time. So yeah, I think so. I wasn't aware of. I don't think I was that religious a rugby follower when he was in the main job for the Dragons, but I mean, by all accounts, he seems to have a lot of positive. He's on good terms with a lot of people in the region, so I can't see it being a negative.
It reminds me a lot of Ospreys bringing in Mike Ruddock when they did. And Mike has gone on to do some really good things with how he's worked with the academy setup, bringing that forward, player pathway, sort of smoothing out that player pathway stuff, and then talent ID as well. I think a lot of who Mike Ruddock and his team have brought over from an Ospreys point of view has been a real positive. So if Paul Turner can emulate some of that for the Dragons, then it might give them some better fortunes as they go into maybe not this season, but definitely next season.
So something along a similar line, from at the Dragons game on Sunday, in the crowd was I keep forgetting his name. Irish coach, Scarlets player.
Simon
Easterby, Simon Easterby. So constant rumours flying around about him coming home because he lives in Wales, travels to Ireland. So yeah, rumours around him coming back and doing something similar at the Scarlets, and it would mean a bit of a restructure and all of this kind of stuff. But bringing in somebody of that quality for the Scarlets would be immense. But then you throw in the money coming into Cardiff, and you think, well, actually, he lives in Cardiff, and that would make a lot of sense. And for him to come into Cardiff and do the same sort of thing for Sharp, I think would be very beneficial all round, shall we say. So that's one to keep an eye out for with that. It will happen at some point, definitely.
Next on the news desk, this was announced after we were on air last week. The Ospreys have announced a player development partnership with South African-based franchise Toyota Cheetahs. The player development pathway basically means that under this partnership, Toyota Cheetahs players will have the chance to join the Ospreys squad, enabling them to experience a different rugby culture, style of play, and gain exposure to the URC. Likewise, Ospreys players will have a chance to join the Cheetahs to play Currie Cup rugby. As part of the deal, 3 Cheetahs players have joined the Ospreys on a short-term loan. These include Daniel Kasende, a lightning-fast winger and scorer of tries against the Scarlets, Marnus van der Merwe, a South African hooker who made his Pro 14 debut against the Ospreys back in 2018, and world's most handsome man, Rowan Kruger, a scrum half who's represented South Africa at under-20s level. By all accounts, this just seems like a really, really solid deal. Toby Booth did mention in the pre-match press conference for Glasgow that this was originally meant to be for during the World Cup, but for reasons that he didn't go into, it didn't pan out. So for it to be to happen now is great. I can't see much wrong with this partnership. Holly, what are your thoughts?
I mean, other than the chance to make the box sprays jokes, which I think we've had a week of it, so there's no real need to go on that. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, Scarlet's had it with Jersey for a while, where they'd have players going up and they'd spend time in the championship, and then they'd bring them back in at more expensive rate, which is part of the thing. But
Yeah.
the biggest issue we seem to have, and we keep saying, is that we don't have a way to develop the younger talent during the league time, because it's it's bit win now, but the Premiership isn't quite doing the job for us. Whereas the Kerry Cup is a much more competitive league than the Welsh Premiership. I know I'm going to get a lot of the community rugby lot hit me down, but the fact is, it's a fully professional league. That these sides are beating Georgia, because Georgia were a part of the Kerry Cup for a couple of seasons. I think they might be in the second division, but even then they had issues. So I think it's great, and if it's filling in spots you need, like I think you've got a bit of issues in your back three. You've got a few issues with injuries in your back three. Obviously, Hooker you've got Derry Lake, Sam Parry's your seniors. One's injured, the other one's probably going to spend a lot of time with Wales. So, I don't know what more I want to say with that one, to be honest, because it just makes sense.
Yeah. I like the video of them kind of coming out the door.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
no, I'm not going to say that, mate.
I knew this was coming.
With a full Swansea crowd, with a full crowd.
I was going to say, I can imagine them walking about and going, "Fuck me, it's cold." Jesus Christ, look at the state of this. And then you think, you imagine a couple of Ospreys boys going the other way and walking out into the South African sunshine and going,
fucking hell, it's hot.
This is winter, for Christ's sake. So I think the Ospreys have got the better end of that deal in terms of, let's send a couple of boys out to South Africa for a couple of months.
Absolutely.
I don't think they'll worry about volunteers. Who wants to go play rugby in South Africa, boys? Fucking form a queue if you could.
Horrible night in Galway or on the beaches of Cape Town.
50-50.
Who fancies going to Pretoria, lads? Right. Staying in the Ospreys region, it was finally announced that the Ospreys are to host Cardiff at the Brewery Field in Bridgend on New Year's Day. Again, not a lot of complaints with this one. We all sort of knew it was coming. It is out of the Ospreys' control as their landlord, Swansea City, are playing that day. And geographically and financially, Brewery Field makes the most sense. It has also been confirmed that the Ospreys v Lions game is to be played at the Swansea.com stadium now, whereas at the start of the season it was to be played at somewhere different. So only 2 games away from the Swansea.com this season, one of them to be at Bridgend. Harley, you're a Cardiff fan. For your sins, are you happy with the Brewery Field match on New Year's Day?
Yeah, I think I said on the group chat that there's only 2 real logical things I could see happening. It's either going to be Bridgend, or they would try and do some deal where they swapped it so it was played at the Arms Park, and then instead of Judgment Day being our home game, it'd be the Ospreys' home game. I know a lot of people complain about that, but for me, it was the only way to make sense. It would make sense by having a ground that A, could hold elite rugby, and B, just something like that thing. But I mean, Bridgend's going to be great because it's about the same time from the train, whether you go from Cardiff or Swansea, which will help all the Ospreys fans who seem to all live in Cardiff.
That is true.
Well, Cardiff might actually bring some people to the stadium this time. Moving on, we have some rumours from Wales Online, who has said that former Wales assistant coach Rob Howley is set to leave his job with the Canada national team and return home. Howley has been working in North America for the past 3 years with the national side and with Toronto Arrows in the Major League Rugby, but is yet to nail down a new role. Firstly, for a lot of people, they found out that Rob Howley's working in Canada. Because I don't think the Canadian national team realised that Rob Howley was working in Canada.
No.
judging by their results. But this will probably be a lot of speculation around regional game. Who can afford him? Who needs him? Gatland has already said that he was blocked in getting Howley back last time. I can't imagine that he'll get him back this time, not with now Alex King in the attack coach role and seemingly doing an okay job. Any thoughts on where he's going to end up?
England. He'll end up somewhere in England. He'll end up with an English team, and I just can't see him coming back to Wales. If he goes anywhere, he goes to Cardiff. But I don't know. There's just too much baggage here for me, just for him as an individual.
Mark my words, he is going to end up at Wasps in whatever way they come back.
Yeah,
whether that be an English championship.
You know, I was thinking the exact same, because the issue with Wasps is that it's all this grand talk. Oh, we found this new we found where we're going to play. We're going to build a stadium, but it's like you haven't got a squad, and you haven't got any coaches, and there's
going to live in Canterbury and in Kent.
You're going to train in Norfolk.
I just think, with all the stuff that he's been through, and the way Welsh rugby is, to walk back into a minefield, whereas he could, with the best will in the world, if it was Wasps or wherever it was, they don't really know the shit that he's been through. They'd give him a fair start. They'd give him a fair. He wouldn't get that in Wales, wherever he went. Even if he came back to Cardiff, he wouldn't get that fair start. So I actually thought the WIU were right to block him on both sides, for him and for Wales. So sometimes it just takes time to rebuild yourself, rebuild your reputation, and whichever way round. If I were him, I wouldn't come back to Wales pretty much ever. In all honesty, I'd go somewhere where I can enjoy the game, and I think that's more important for him right now.
And then, Miles, do you agree? Rob Howley, is he coming back to Wales, or are you going to stay in England?
You stunned him there, James. You kind of went you went to him, and he's like, I was falling asleep there.
No, it's.
And then,
I think Wasps is going to. I think it'll be the reincarnation. I agree with you, James. It's going to be the reincarnation of Wasps.
And then finally, the WIU published its annual facts and figures. Probably the most glaring thing was former chief exec Steve Phillips, who left his position in January of 2023, received a payoff of $480,000 as part of 1.9 million given to departing employees over a 12-month period. That's just, look, we could sit here all night and call Steve Phillips everything under the sun, but I think we've exhausted every possible adjective possible for that man and what the WIU have done in that whole situation.
The bit I liked about it was there were certain people on social media that were determined to make something of it, and most people reacted the same way that you just did, James, and went, that's life. Move on we go. Yeah. We go, no, stop now. Look how much money this is. And everyone was pretty much just ignoring them, going, that's life. Well done for telling us, but time to move on. No. I have a point to make here. Everybody must be absolutely outraged. Everybody's going like, no, on we go, move on. So it was quite strange to see Welsh Rugby Twitter not explode for a change.
The other interesting part of that article, sorry, Hal, I just want to bring this up a second, was the Parkgate Hotel has apparently increased revenues from 5.7 to 11.1 million, despite the only other people staying there are Wales internationals who get invited to stay there for free. So I don't know who's actually paying for that hotel, but that's the only other thing. So sorry, Harley.
Yeah. So the one thing I was going to say is everyone's saying about this 1.9 million in payoffs, as if that would have suddenly meant that the WRU wouldn't have made a £4.5 million loss. I mean, do some quick maths for you. 1.9 is a bit smaller than 4.5, so we still would have made a loss, which is where they're saying about the whole thing with the extra internationals and why the Barbarians game's so important. But the weird thing I always find is they say how much they spend on like the pro game and the community game. You know, community games ring fences 11.8 £11.8 million, whatever. And then you get the professional game and it's like that. And then they say the turnovers are 101 million and we've made this much loss. And you're like, so what was the bit in the middle?
Yeah.
Where's this other 60 odd million quid?
And
I'm sure you'll get some people who'll deep dive through it and then they'll spout out the figures they want, but not actually post it or tell you where. That's the thing, I'd like to have a look at it, but you can never find the. You've got to you've either got to know where it is, know someone who knows where it is, or be the person who's released the report to find all the actual data.
And that's my thought, Harley. We new set of management coming in and all of that, then somebody somewhere should be going, do you know what, let's be honest about where all the money's going. Let's actually tell people where. Let's not let people dig into report after report, and you can interpret figures however which way you want to, and what does this mean in accounting and all of that. We need somebody from the WRU to put their hands up and say, look, we spend X amount on this and X amount on that, and this is why. Because I think that's the bit that's missing. And I think there's going to be bits within the WRU that are not really producing an outcome. They're ideas that are probably nice to have, but for me, just needs to be changed. And the other thing is they can't complain about, we missed an international this year. We missed it. Every 4 years, the World Cup's going to come around. It's going to be played at pretty much the same time every 4 years. Fucking plan ahead, do a little bit of maths, do a little bit of planning. Don't put a fucking game on when there's going to be regional games being played, and work it out. Here's a thought: instead of putting a Taylor Swift concert on when Judgment Day is on, try and book something during the World Cup when there won't be any rugby played there at all. Try, just have a little bit of a think about what's going to happen in 4 years' time. Okay, carry on. I've got it out in the system now.
In sort of an answer to your question, the WRU annual general meeting is on Sunday the 19th. So I assume when the minutes get published for that, we might have a bit more clarity on what we've been saying. But it is a WRU, so absolutely no clarification coming. Other than that, there is no other regional news. I have not received any from you boys, so that is the end of the news desk.
Cool. Okay, so let's crack on quickly then with some listeners' questions. So, Harley, what did we, just to put everyone in the picture? So normally on a Monday morning, we'll put something out on Facebook and on Twitter, and we'll just say questions for tonight, just so we can chuck them into this. And then we kind of group them together. Then we go, right, okay, here's who we're asked. But we also do 3-word thoughts after every game. And so if you are following us on social media, then do get involved and put your comments on that. And if you're not following us on social media, well, why the fuck not? What's wrong? Anyway, Harley, listeners' questions. Over to you.
So starting off with friend of the pod, Martin Lewis. He's not been on the pod, but he interacts with us so regularly. I think we can class him as a friend of the pod. So his is basically what's gone on this season with the comms and tech. So start off, we had the Benetton Cardiff game, or Cardiff Benetton, if you want it in order, where the TMO couldn't get the video fig down to Frank Murphy on the big screen. You could see him playing in the pub. You could see it playing in the clubhouse behind, but not on the big screen. That might be a bit. I will very quietly say might be Cardiff skullduggery, but there's an issue. We had an issue with the TMO and the referee not going. Out in South Africa, there were issues with the referee and the TMO talking. So there was the Joe Roberts high tackle that seemed to be missed, and that was put down as a communication error. And said it was very bad. It definitely shouldn't have happened, but the messaging through. Then for the first half of the Dragons Leinster game this season, we had issues where we could hit, and actually you could hear it on the commentary of blue offside, blue high shot coming in from the touch judges, but the referee couldn't hear it. So I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. If anything, the more likelihood is Wales. The kit in Wales is shit, but there seems to be a few communication errors, and we've heard this happening like Zebra and Benetton as well. It's happened in Galway for Connacht games in the past where the TMO goes down or there's no TMO at all. This is because this is supposed to be an elite league, and elite league representing 5 of the big boy unions. Surely we can't have this many communication issues. I mean, you might say, well, that was 1 game per round, and 1 round where I haven't mentioned one. So actually maybe it's a good success rate, but for me, seems a little bit odd. What about you guys?
Go on, James. You go first on this one.
I think the URC should stop spending money on making ref kits and just buy good tech. It's really tough sometimes when you're in a different country that's not necessarily has rugby on its highest TV coverage, where local coverage is not great, and you're struggling to get screens across. The bit that's fucking me off is the comms, right? I don't remember this ever being an issue, regularly. It might happen once in a blue moon. There was that time where Nigel Owens had to use a mobile phone, funny, it's Nige, right? But this is becoming sort of a regular occurrence now. And it's quite farcical. I sometimes I get with the weather, they can play havoc with technology, and it was pissing it down at Rodney Parade on Sunday. I get that sometimes the weather can be a factor. I think it happened at the Sharks Ospreys game, or the Osprey Sharks game in London as well. Is it the technology they're using, the certain company they're using? It's got to be addressed and fixed. And the longer the URC stays silent on it, the more enraged I think more Welsh fans will become, especially. Because, not that it would have made a difference on Sunday to the result, but if that's a close game, it's a different story. The one, and this will bring back rage for Lee, and I'm sure he's going to mention it, is the Joe Roberts one in South Africa. That's farcical. That's player safety, and that's, and I don't even think there was an official comment from the URC. I know Dwayne Peeler had requested for one, but this is where it becomes then you become disillusioned with the league. So I think the URC need to get out in front of this. A good example would be when Wales had their kit numbers falling off in the World Cup. Everyone immediately started getting on Twitter and saying, "Oh, Macron are to blame. Macron are the devil. We should burn everyone who wears Macron." And Macron came out and said, "No, this has nothing to do with us. We pride ourselves on making high quality kits, blah, blah, blah. It's to do with local companies." Great. Everyone got on with their lives then. If the URC come out and say, "We've been using this company for our communications for referees during games, and we've established that there's a problem with that, we're going to move to a different company, or we're working to solve this," then some of that heat is taken off.
Yeah.
But until they do that, I think supporters have every right to be enraged, essentially.
And that was going to be my point, James, that until somebody comes out and says, "This is what the issue is, this is what we're doing about it," we changed supplier of comms at the end of last season, and turns out that they weren't as good or whatever. Until somebody comes out and explains what it is, then all it does is it allows people to fill in the blanks, and that's where bullshit happens. So, yeah, wake up, URC. because it's not just your league, it's our league. So sort your shit out. Go on, Art. What's next, mate?
So just before we go on to the next question. So if there's anyone from the URC deals with the comms or someone who's involved in that side of the game, feel free to get in touch. Don't have to come on the pod, but we just like to answer. It's not a witch hunt before you worry it. We genuinely, exactly what I'd say if it was. But seriously, like, because we actually want to get people from all different sides of the competition on. So actually, any administrators or match day people who want to talk about this stuff, we genuinely want to know.
Yeah, and let's be honest. Some of the communications that come out of URC are really good. With the roundtable stuff, and they send us the like a weekly update of stats and figures and all of this, and it's really, really good. So they're perfectly capable of doing it. It's just, maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know what the issue is. But somebody needs to come out and say, this, we're looking at this, or we're doing this. So anyway, next.
So next question. So it's a bit of a Cardiff-based one. So can Cardiff clone Lilo and Willis Halaholo? From Daniel Minty. Short answer, no, because it's far more complicated than that. But wouldn't it be great? The problem is then Cardiff would still end up with more tarty backs than they know what to do with, and no front five. I won't go into the technicalities of actually cloning a person because Lee threatened to just kick me out the meeting. So I'm just going to hand it over to you guys. What do you think? Can we? Do we want to? Are there other players we'd rather clone? For me personally, I'd like to get Adam Jones cloned.
I love the fact that you actually spent a bit of time and did some research on this and went in, well, whereas the rest of it took it as the way it was intended. It was a bit of a laugh, and wouldn't it be great to have a few more of them? And Harley went, now let's just look into the DNA of this.
There's no research. That's just the sort of stuff you learn at doing biochemistry at Cardiff. Like that. Trust me, that's just one of those nuggets of information that stays in the back of your head and then pops out every so often. You're like, where? When did I learn that?
I'd like to see another 5 Mike Reyes. I'd be happy with another 5 Mike Reyes. So he'd be my player to clone.
There's only one person. You just took it out of my mouth. Can we clone that man infinite times? I should have said earlier, I want to send Rhys Henry to South Africa, and I want a camera on him at all times to see what it would be. That would be Emmy-worthy television. But in terms of Lilo and Willis, you'd hope so, but they're not getting any younger. I think Lilo is close enough to a bus pass now, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, he outruns plenty of younger players on the weekend. We'll get on to that later.
Anyway, let's move on before Harley starts going on Jurassic Park.
So we are making a hard turn to port now. With so from Lee and Rob, and is the WRU to blame for the regions? Probably should have asked to be a bit more specific. I think they're to blame for some issues with the regions, but I think at the same time we've got to take responsibility for ourselves because we're the ones coaching the players. Yes, the finances make things difficult. We weren't able to sign or retain the players we wanted to, and a lot of that is particularly with even if those budget cuts happened at the start of last season. I said next season you've got this, and then you've got your full season to plan. That would be a lot. That would have solved a lot of the problems that I had, particularly in Cardiff, where we basically had to hope that there's a bargain bin available just before the World Cup. But it's at the end of the day, the regions have been the ones who have been signing these people. Like we had three very close games. One game which was sort of all right until Leinster did their All Black soul splintery thing, and Tame Basham decided to do a Sebastian Vahamina. It does you can't blame the WRU for some of the stuff that happens on the pitch. Yes, they've got a lot to answer for, but so do we. We're the ones who, if we're wasting money on a load of players, like Scarlets had a huge budget for years and won nothing. They got their huge budget after winning the league.
So 1-0.
1 Pro 12.
1-0. And where's your fucking title, sunshine? Fuck
Well,
me.
twice
1-0.
Challenge Cup champions. We've got an Anglo Welsh.
Sorry,
I mean,
I'll just
you've got-
sit here
and
with my
speaking of
4 league
spending
titles.
to win, you got the Ospreys down there. Like,
Fuck off. We produced
but
the most Wales
we've
players.
like all the regions have spent money on players that maybe they shouldn't have spent money, or maybe we should have. We've kept some players we maybe should have gotten rid of. Which part of that again goes back to WRU nicking all our players for extended periods. But yeah, I mean that's my 2 cents on it. Is yes, WRU have got stuff to answer for, but so do we. On to you two gents.
Yeah, I agree. I think it doesn't help the situation, but then it doesn't help the situation to just keep going over and over the same things, and nothing's going to change. We've signed a 6-year deal with 4 games in. So it's one of those things that we've got to learn to live with, learn to adapt with, and as supporters, we've got to learn to move on. So we do a similar thing on the Scarlets pod with questions and this, that, and the other. And I've been trying to get a thing in with the Scarlets pod about let's get some music, let's get some drums, and let's get some and people I just want to sit and watch my rugby. And one guy complained this week because there were kids shouting when he was trying to watch the rugby. And I'm like, I didn't even go back to him. I was like, fuck, this would just be a conversation that's not worth having, So
if you want to sit and watch rugby in silence, don't go to the game, watch on telly.
Yeah, but do you know
what I mean?
If you don't want if you're bothered by other people, don't go where other people are.
Go to watch it at the Ospreys, and you can have a whole fucking stand to yourself. No one will touch you. But my point is going to be that sometimes you've got to move on. You've got to kind of look at the future. You've got to look at I love the fact that there's 100 kids sitting around you screaming and all. All right, it probably gets on your tits for a while, but there were plenty of other seats to move to. But do you know what I mean? Sometimes you've got to look forward. You've got to go forward, and I think looking back all the time and being miserable bastards isn't really helping us. So
I think it's really damaging, and it's almost like self-harm for a regional fan to keep going back and saying it's the WRU's fault. And as you boys have both said, there are lots to blame for the WRU, but I always like to look at what have we achieved in spite of the WRU not being fully supportive of our regions. And the crowning jewel of the Ospreys, I always say, is Ospreys in the community. Right, the amazing stuff that team has done, and in particularly Joe Gage. Shout out to him, Aberavon Centre, and just all-round legend who has left the team now, but has done so much great work over the years. With look at the success of Sporting Memories, all the kids stuff that they do for every game. They put on so much. Their half-term camps are always booked to beyond what their capacity is, and they just have a budget of 4 pence and half a Subway because there's no budget for it, type thing. So it's always good to remind yourself where we are and what we do, and all our clubs do it in spite of lack of financial support and whatnot. And just the players that we've produced over the years. Yes, I know Osprey bought the league how many times, but they still had a really good core of young Welsh players within that mix as well. So of what we produced as 4 regions, I think is something to be proud of, and that we should move forward with that positive attitude. As well as that, lads, it's been 4 games, right? It's been 4 games this weekend, 3 of which were incredibly close. Ospreys played a team which I expect to be top 4, top 6 at the end of the season. Scarlets played the Lions, who are no mugs at all. Dragons obviously played Leinster, and Cardiff played probably the best South African team there is. So, it's not judge. I think judge us after probably the first European weekend, maybe. not 4 games in when everyone's high on emotion and things like that. So yeah, they are to blame, but look at where we are in spite of all that as well.
So can I just say, just before that, so James spoke for a little bit there and did quite really impressive. Didn't mention Reece Henry for a good 2 or 3 minutes. I just like to point that out there now, that there was a good chunk there where he didn't mention him once.
Well, I mean, he wasn't playing. That's the only reason.
That's why we lost. Joke's on you. He's on my phone screen.
For those audio listeners who haven't gone check the YouTube, his wallpaper is genuinely Reece Henry in Osprey's kit. One thing, if we were going to try and draw positives, it's one I was going to use because we're going to record Cardiff Central later. But Cardiff, when they played the Bulls last time at home, they managed to get a slight lead, and then the last 15 minutes got absolutely battered. I think Bismarck single-handedly absolutely ruined us. We ended up going from winning to not even getting a losing bonus point. This time we've got a losing bonus point. There were issues amongst it, and we'll go into them later, but I mean, there is progress there. All right, admittedly, the Bull. I mean, I'll go into the Bulls didn't look like they were interested, but it is an improvement. And the big thing I said at the start was the one thing I want Cardiff to do is to keep in the fight. Pick up that you're going to lose a game, pick up that losing bonus point, because it's so important when you get to the end of the year. Ospreys got to a point last season, got to almost qualify for the Heineken Cup because they were always picking up the bonus points. Just to bring up flashback to what I said last week, saying, I feel like they would regret not getting the 4 tries against Sharks last week, and maybe the same not getting a losing bonus point this week. It's when you get to that end of season and we're fighting for places, they're the points that they're going to be the games where you think, if we just done that, that's the one where you're going to be kicking yourself.
I think the problem with that
it's not going to be a huge blowout.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is you must have told that to the Scarlets, and they went, "Okay, let's make sure we get a losing bonus point here, boys." Because fuck me. Let's move on, shall we?
Yeah. Right, and then we have one final question. It follows on quite nicely from my last point. What rank would everyone be happy with at the end of the season? Cardiff, I don't care what the number is, as long as it's above the Ospreys. I don't think it's going to happen, but as long as it's above the Ospreys, I'd be happy.
Don't even acknowledge you. No, I think round about where the Ospreys are right now, that 9th, 10th, maybe even 8th position, I don't think is out of reach at all. I think that there was enough for that. I don't talk about it later. There was enough there for me on Saturday to realise that we can compete with the top teams. And I winning the Welsh, not that the Welsh Hubcap means anything now, but winning the Welsh Hubcap and then being around that 8th, 9th, 10th position is a realistic and quite achievable goal for us.
I think the thing with the Hubcap is it may be a shit trophy, but it's still a trophy. Everyone
celebrating a car park in
Champions Cup, but at the end of the day, it's silverware and it's something you can stick in the cabinet. But just go through the league. Do we want to say what we think for the Dragons? Are we going to just say we hope they stay in 15th? Or are we going to be nicer about it?
For me, it's the same as all of them. I just want to see some effort and some improvement. What I don't want to see is the same mistakes and the same issues and the same problems week after week after week, and they're sitting there and going, "Why aren't we kicking for territory? Why aren't we changing the game? Why aren't we got quick boys on the way?" Do you know what I mean? Why are we making the same mistakes?
Why is Steph Evans still playing? Stuff like that.
Because he scored. He was integral in the first try, and then he fucks it up.
But then he was integral in conceding too.
I can't wait for you and Hugh to mash this out, because Hugh has messaged me.
I'm so looking forward to
lots of things this weekend about Steph Evans.
Hugh is. I'm just going to wind him up and talk about Steph Evans' hair.
Do you want to do a quick update on the table? I think we're all saying we none of us are dreaming of much higher than 9th, but if we just go through the table now, maybe
Go on
just
then.
have a quick say, do you think this is roughly? So thanks to their win over Cardiff, Bulls are at top. Then we've got Leinster, who after their, it turns out the Death Star is fully operational. Glasgow, Ulster, Connacht, Bennett, and Munster, Edinburgh rounding out the top 8. Then in the better luck next year half of the draw, DHL Stormers, then Ospreys in 10th, Zebra, Emirates Lions, Cardiff in 13th, then Scarlets 14th. Then we've got Dragons, so it's nice and tight. 3 of the regions are sticking together. One's been an offshoot. And then the Hollywood Bet Sharks they do have a match point, but they are still rooted bottom, although I don't imagine it will stay there now. They're going to have a few games in South Africa. I think looking at table, the top 4, you're probably going to see Stormers break into it. I'd expect like Connacht and Munster to be still in that top 8. Edinburgh maybe dipping in and out, same as Benetton. I mean, the good news is Ospreys are only 5 match points off top.
Yeah, but it's early days, isn't it? It
is early days.
When one win can move you from 8th to 2nd, I think it was for Leinster or something like that. It's and if Scarlets had held on for another 3 or 4 minutes, I think Scarlets would have been top half of the table. Ospreys, if they'd have been top half of the table, if they'd do you know what I mean?
From an Ospreys point of view, last year we peaked at the wrong time. So we had that run
pre-season
from Christmas where we were winning a lot. So we beat Montpellier out there. Ultimately didn't mean anything because we weren't going to progress in Europe past the Saracens game. We beat the Scarlets, which, they made it quite easy for us with Tom Flazana, assaulting Rhys Davis. Then we had the back-to-back European wins as well as the New Year's Day win, against Cardiff, when we swatted aside the Blues. So we picked it around. We won 2 URC games and 3 European games. Whereas if that was 5 URC games, we probably wouldn't be in that position last year. And I know the old thing was, ifs, ands, and maybes, whatever, but that's where we went wrong. As good as it was being in the proper competition, we peaked at the wrong time, and it probably didn't reflect our form, beating Montpellier and Leicester and whatnot. So I still maintain.
I think it was similar with Cardiff. We didn't make the most of when we were in good form. Again, that's the not picking up bonus points. We should have beaten Edinburgh when the Scotland internationals were away. Yes, they had all the Argentinian internationals, but that was a game we really should have won. I don't think we even got a losing bonus point out of that game. And then that our line out having an absolute meltdown against the Ospreys, which meant then that we ended up having to have lots of scrums, which was never going to hold up against the Ospreys pack. And then, similar to the derbies that we've had this season, we managed to sort it out against Scarlets, but it didn't really matter because when Scarlets are running tries from everywhere, focusing on trying to get a prop sent off sent off after half an hour in the scrum is not going to be it doesn't really help you win a game.
The bit we were doing just now, gents, about saying let's not be bitter about what's gone on and let's move forward. and then you just spent 5 minutes moaning about how last season and we should have done stuff differently.
It's cathartic, all right? Leave me alone.
Like Scarlet should have realised they were only going to finish in the bottom 3, so they should have let Ospreys win that first game.
Oh, fuck it. Right, let's move on to 3 weird thoughts, boys. So, for those of you that are still joining the weekly listen, so after each game we do a thing called 3 weird thoughts, and the idea, the key bit with this, 3 word thoughts. Yeah, so just keep it to 3 and condense your energy. You can do as many as you want. You can make 5 replies if you want, but just keep it to 3 on each one. So I'm just going to run through a couple of my favorites. So newly converted Cardiff fan Francisco says that was proper utter crap. So you've done well converted him
I
there.
thought we played quite well
Francisco
up until
says
the last vet pass.
it was proper utter crap. Tom, corrupt bald referees. I think I know where we're going with that. Missed opportunity. Then some people start having conversations. Now, Martin Lewis, friend of the show, I like this one because he went, I'm going to make sure I stick to 3, because he said, Booth's building, and then all in one word is a bright future for the Ospreys. So, well done, March, on that one. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, missed opportunities again, another whitewash. Peter Thomas, this is very true, but I hope I'm wrong. I think he was replying to someone, but that came up there. 3 close games, should have won all 3. 3 thoughts, 3 words, boys. 3 words.
I mean, then you had me on doing the for the Cardiff one, which was I used all 3 of my words for the exact same word.
Yours were just,
and it rhymed with duck.
Yeah, it was. That was quite popular. That was. So yeah, it was quite good. So let's move on to talking about the games then. So let's talk about Cardiff and Bulls first. Harley, where did you fuck it up, mate?
Oh, the last pass almost every time. And the fact that we couldn't catch a cold at some points. There were some absolutely fantastic individual performances, apart from one error. Unfortunately, all the players had one error at different points in the game, so nothing really ever built. So it was just constant drop passes, which I think was the most frustrating thing, because I felt like Ray Lilo looked like he was about 5-6 years younger and was playing out of his skin. He was just unbelievable. You know, I thought the scrum held up quite well against the Bulls pack for the first sort of 45 minutes, and then it went very bad very quickly. For those people who are questioning all the other pods about Reese Littrick saying, oh, well, he can't be that good because he couldn't get into the Harlequins team. Wilco Lowe is the reason Reese Littrick couldn't get into that Harlequins team. He is a fucking fantastic tight end prop. And then Simon Kerrick, who is like the next cab off the rack, is also very good. So to be 3rd choice at Harlequins actually is very good. So just to sort of bite back at a couple of other pods who are sort of having a go at him being, oh, he couldn't get into the Quins side.
Well,
yeah,
I thought
the kind of back line actually started to look like a back line and not 12 people, you know, not like a bunch of people who've met in the change rooms before. The first 10 minutes definitely like that, but it started to go, and then it was just passes. Oh, and it doesn't help when, you know, we've had 4 centres and no wingers.
I can't understand why you lot can't catch a ball. It genuinely baffles me the amount of passes that I saw. Just, it wasn't like some of them were under a massive amount of pressure. They were just shit passes or shit catches. I don't get it. You're a professional team. This is one of the basics, you know.
I think some of them were players not being in quite the right position for the catch, but some of them were just very shoddy, like really shoddy passes, I think, and were forced too hard. I mean, we can go on to it with some of the issues of the Scarlets game as well, and actually Dragons, well, all 4 of us really, if you look deep enough, is where they were trying to make stuff happen, but they're trying to make stuff happen as if they're 21 points down when they're like 12 points up. That's the bizarre thing. At times you're like, no, we're in the ascendancy. We seem to have gotten a grip on this game. Just carry on. I mean, I could talk about Cardiff being really good in the first half and then somehow not quite doing it in the second half, and I just copy and paste that. And I'm hoping I'm not going to be in that position when we get to the end of the season, because every single game I've said the first half was pretty good, second half not so much.
So, player-wise, what were your positives from the weekend?
Again, I've already mentioned Ray Lilo. Great. Teddy Williams continues to be what's promising to be that bastard lock we've been crying out for a year since Bradley Davis left. It's nice. It was quite nice to see Tamani have another go at 8. I think he's actually becoming quite a decent option for us there. especially with Faletau being out.
Mm.
Harry Millard, he's had issues with injury, basically wasn't even considered for a contract. Came back, had a fantastic game. Halaholo did one absolutely beautiful triple side step where he somehow beat 3 defenders. Reece Carey beat 2 defenders somehow, and I rewatched the game and I still have no idea how, but he beat them. Good for him. And he only
Keep my
conceded
mouth
one
shut.
penalty against Wilkelo, so that's pretty good.
Mm.
I know James hates him, but I mean, as an out in the loose player, he's all right.
This is there were so many positives to Cardiff there. I mean, you actually threw into the line out and your own player caught
There
the
was only
ball.
one not straight, and that was from a
Yeah.
debutant.
Yeah.
We had a hooker starting his first URC start, and then we had a complete debutant who's still officially in the academy.
Mm.
And I thought the line out was mostly all right, considering how big the Bulls pack is in terms of how tall, and they're actually really good at see. And we stole the line out.
Yeah, this is why I don't understand how you fucked it up, because all of the stuff that you normally fuck up, you started getting right, and it was
That's the problem. We're fucking up. We started to sort out the bits we were bad at last season, the season before, and the season before. We fucked up the bit we were supposed to be good at.
Mm.
I mean, I know one person was. I saw one comment saying this is more on Facebook, not on questions, but in a Cardiff chat saying, "Oh, we need to sign Jared Evans back." First of all, that is as much as I reckon that backline would work better with Jared in it, more from familiarity than anything else. The investors have far bigger issues to chuck money in than players. First of all, let's get a proper full coach in, not basically just anyone who happens to have a CF postcode. And the Armours Park needs a revamp. It just does. And hopefully someone with a nice bit of flash cash might be able to allure the Cardiff Athletic Club to say, yeah, sure, have the known year at least. Go do what you like with it. Just give us some monies.
Okay, let's move on before Harley gives himself a couple of burst blood vessels somewhere. Let's move on to Ospreys Glasgow. James, what? Okay, let's skip that.
Right, I have some thoughts. Get out of the way first about Andrea Piardi, right? I don't like him as a referee. I never have. He's old. He's terrible, right? I just
You
don't
can't use
like.
bold as a discreditment for disliking someone because that's part of the reason you love Reece Henry.
That is a point. That is a good point.
No, he is bald. He's like an Italian Clive Woodward. He has no idea what he's on about. I'm going to get out of the way. I didn't agree with his decision making around a lot of the Glasgow penalties and Ospreys penalties, but it's not the reason the Ospreys lost the game. I think a lot of Ospreys fans need to get that out of their head now. That is not the reason we lost the game, right? Did it help? No. Did we play to the referee? Absolutely not. Did Tipperick have an absolute stinker when it came to the referee? Yes. I knowing Justin the way I do and knowing how he is and having watched him for donkey's years now, that is the worst I've ever seen him react to a referee. And all it did was just give Andrea Piardi the ammunition he needed to and then it came the yellow card at the end to Justin Tipperick, which I don't agree was a yellow card, but at the end of the day, we have to accept the fact that it was. We shouldn't have been in that position anyway. I thought Toby Booth was brilliant in his post-match analysis, saying, we don't look at why the tries that were scored. We look at how we got there, right? How we got into them field positions. And there were a lot more positives to that game than there were negatives, right? They didn't score. Actually, it's not that they didn't score. They didn't have a sniff in open play. I thought our defense was the best it's looked in years. Honestly, we looked hungry. We looked relatively well disciplined. We from open play, fantastic. I thought again we moved the ball around a bit. We were a lot better in that department. It's just we gave away too many penalties, which result in 28 points from a driving maul. It's just you can't do that. And full credit to Glasgow. You know, they're a really, really top outfit in a rotated side. They were fantastic. Some really good positives from the Ospreys. Dewi Lake, I thought, was fantastic. Coming back in, he made 29 carries on Saturday. He is built different, that boy. Jack Walsh, again, he is looking really, really good this season. He is night and day from where he was last season. Harry Deeves came out well again. Again, scrum was absolutely dominant. This is another part where I thought Andrea Piardi struggled. I didn't think we were rewarded enough for a dominant scrum. Glasgow winning 63% of their scrums says that a lot for me. Other than that, it's the one that got away. You know, we really didn't deserve to come out of there with no points, but we did, and we've got to accept that, and we've got to move on. There's no point sitting and bitching and moaning. We came out relatively unscathed, apart from Kieran Williams failing the HIA, so he won't be involved against the Dragons. Can't think of any other injuries really that came out of that game. Look, it's gutting, but it happened. There's no other way of going around and saying that we lost. We didn't deserve to. Boys, any thoughts?
I mean, yeah, just to echo what you said, I thought the Ospreys had a lot of positives, at least. And because I picked the Ospreys over Scarlets, because I thought seeing the Ospreys lose would make me happier. It didn't. Maybe a bit sad because I felt really they could have and should have won. I agree. Jack Walsh looks, you know, I thought he was someone you could target last season. This season he looks a lot more assured, and you know, I think Owen Williams might actually struggle to get back in the side because I think Jack Walsh is making that jersey his own. I was wondering about the back row with the Ospreys. I thought it might be a bit of an issue when you've got Thieves is an out and out open side, Tibrick's an out and out open side, and Morgan Morris. Sorry, you know, I know he's really adapted to 8 quite well, but for me, he is very much a Josh Navidi. So you could say he's naturally an open side. So you've gone for that 777 back line, but I think it works quite well. I think it does help though that you've got a really solid tight 5 where you can this is the reason why I say with Wales, dual open sides don't necessarily work because we don't necessarily have the tight 5.
Yeah,
the tight 5 who can take up the slack because we don't have a big ball carrying back row. We need that being done more in the tight 5 where you have not so big good ball carriers, but they all share it. Dewi Lake, I think, is brilliant. I think every time he comes back from Wales camp, he seems to look better. Hopefully, he stays fit because I think that's going to be a thing. He's going to be big for Ospreys and Wales in the coming years. You know, his arrows are getting better each time. I'm sure he probably have a few more wobblies. Ryan Elias had a few wobblies, but he's still one of our main. He's still probably our best one.
91% line-out win percentage, by the way. So,
and you got to remember is when you lose a line-out, it's not always the hooker.
Yeah.
As much as we want
unless
to
it's Ryan Elias,
it never is. Cardiff for times last season you could because it was because of a wonky throw almost every single time.
Because you had shit.
You know, you do get some teams like when you've got when you're going up against all 78 foot of Richie Gray, who is probably one of the best technical line-out forwards out there. You know, he's going to know where to throw and stick up. You know, some of these teams that Dewi Lake's had bad line-out games against are against teams like South Africa and England, who are very good defensive line-out operators. England might not be much good at else, but they're really good at nicking your ball in a line-out. It's the reason why Ireland's struggle with them so much these last few years. Yeah, I thought there was a lot of positives to be had for 3 out of the 4 regions. Arguably some positives for the 4th, but also some things to be really annoyed with. But, you know, I think, first of all, unless you've got anything to say about the Ospreys, Lee, do you want to move on to Scarlets?
No, I was going to, taking my Scarlets hat off, I think there were a lot of positives for the Ospreys to be had. What I would say is, and I know you guys love him, and you'll hate me for saying this, but Williams inside centre is lovely at doing what he does, which is he's going to take a straight ball on a crash ball and he's going to go forward. he needs to develop something different. He needs to be able to develop.
You are
something
not the
that will-
first person to say this, and I will say this very carefully in that Ospreys have decided that this season they want to have wingers carrying the ball, whereas the last 2 seasons where Keith has been that main source of go forward is that he's been carrying a lot more than he has. I'm looking at carries now, and Keith isn't in there. I know he went off, but what we were doing previously with Fussell was very much we drive the line out or we get scrum parity. Heath takes the ball, makes 5 meters, and then we'll assert forward dominance, win a penalty, go to the corner. Now all of a sudden we are using Nagy as first receiver. We're putting Owen Watkin is spreading the ball lovely. You know, we're using Walsh coming in hot off the line. Kieran's not necessarily adapted to that yet, and I agree he does need to develop that passing game. But also Ospreys sometimes need to stop being so, I don't want to use the term bipolar, but wishy-washy in what attacking style they want to play. Because sometimes when you got Keith at 12, it is just better for him to be, an angry fucker and just run at the run at Dunk. They did the right thing running at Dunky Weir over and over until he doesn't want to tackle anymore. They'll do it against the Scarlets as well. They'll run at Yohan Lloyd, and Yohan Lloyd's a good defender, but they'll run at Yohan Lloyd until he doesn't want to tackle anymore. That's what they need to use Kieran for. And if you're going to pick him, you need to play the attacking style that suits Kieran. And I think that's where if you're going to pick Owen at 12, which is obviously what's going to happen against Dragons, then yes, play your more expansive game. Don't use Owen as a battering ram 12 when he's got a nice pair of hands on it. But I completely agree. We need to stop being so wishy-washy, and that's the problem with picking Keith and Owen 12 and 13.
I was going to say, just going into it, that also if you're going to have George North coming in at 13, that's 2 very direct runners. And then you're losing out on the chance. Like every team does need someone in the back line who is just going to straighten out and run hard. Unfortunately,
he played
Cardiff,
quite wide on Saturday, though.
Yeah,
I thought he played quite wide. I thought he got into the wide channels really well.
Do you think they were using him more as a third winger then? Because I've seen that quite happen. I know they do it with Riku Rani. Ray Lilo's used like that.
Well, yeah, because that and not to be all technical in terms of attack coaching, but that's where I think Nagy has been so good this season. Is Nagy coming into the line a lot more? So you've got Jack Walsh will take the ball at 10. Someone runs a hard line off him to Nagy to and then bring in the likes of George and then skinhead Luke Morgan now, by the way, to play almost a sort of a third winger role. It's what Dan Evans used to do a lot when Dan Evans was good and at his peak when he was scoring 8 million tries a season. He was essentially playing a third winger role. And I could see what Ospreys are trying to do. George was getting into really, really wide positions. And people I can't remember who said it on Twitter, and this is my last point on the Ospreys, but George is not a big, bashy, run into people winger. He's one of the most balanced ballerina type players I've ever seen. He hasn't got a sidestep. He's a really great change of angle and direction that he's so light on his feet that he sort of got lost and labelled as a big, I'm going to carry 8 million people over the line. So I can see more of George doing that because he is making that outside step a lot, targeting soft shoulders. That's where the try came from for Ruben Wobblegate-Williams, by the way. George takes it wide. He targets the soft shoulder of the outside defender, gets it onto Luke Morgan, who's able to put a kick inside. And if George plays to his stereotype, he runs an inside line there and we recycle the ball. But yeah, I get what you mean. I'll talk more about this on Ospreys Diary. Please subscribe.
My point is more like if both your centres are both sort of the ones who are either carrying in or not necessarily. Like George has definitely worked on his passing game. You can see it for Wales. He's definitely developed it, but it's not his main attribute. It's his running. He's almost an end of phase player. Usually when you ball goes to North or to Kieran Williams, there's either going to be a try or a breakdown, and then we set out for the phase two. And that's fine. You need players like that because because having like an offside line and a point of attack where you can catch people being a bit slow. But yeah, you do need someone who is that distributor, and having Nagy does help. I mean, it's the big thing Cardiff did for years with having Jared Evans and Gareth Anscombe, was having those two playmakers. You know, even if they're not an out-and-out 10, just someone who can who can make a decent pass. But I feel like if you've got too many people who just run, and more of strike players, I suppose the nice way to put it. It's one of the big issues that, one of the big criticisms is how leveled at Mason Grady is. He's, and why a lot of people think he should be on the wing is because he is a strike player. Yeah, cool. I said I feel like we could do the Ospreys to death and their back, their outside back selections. So let's go on to Scarlets.
Yeah, I mean, a lot's been made of Steph Evans' kick at the end of that game. Steph Evans is our top carrier on Saturday. 9 carries, 2 clean breaks. We've discussed this on the Scarlets pod numerous times about how he is a bit of a rogue. Why he's kicking so much this season, I don't know, because that's not his strength, and ultimately that's what let him down on Saturday. So, I think some of the stuff that's been leveled at him on social media is a bit over the top, but he did back up the kick. He had a player inside him that he could have offloaded to, who could have kicked it. And we'd be sitting there going, wasn't it nice? At least one of us won. So, I think there were a lot of positives come out of that game. Ryan Elias was fucking awesome in that game. He was absolutely everywhere. His meters beyond contact on Saturday were immense.
He made 59 total from 14 carries, which is a decent return, regardless of how much pass contact.
Yeah,
a few passes as well.
But it was just.
I think the lineup went quite well as well, from what I remember.
Yeah,
watching the game back.
Normally, that's his weak point. He's just very much.
Sorry, I've got to have that stat to hand.
But normally he's quite poor in the lineup, but he's a scrummaging hooker. But he was just everywhere on Saturday, and he was awesome. And similar to Cardiff, I can't understand how we fucked it up, because Ioan Lloyd had an outstanding game. Fafita was superb. What's his name? The guy from Gloucester, the other second row. Alex Craig. Yeah, he was our number one defender on Saturday. So he's really starting to show what he can do. Tuipulotu made yards, made some cock-ups, but Tuipulotu started to show why he's in the team, because he can make some serious yards. Plumtree turnovers. There was so many positives in that game that I'm struggling still to understand how we screwed it up. We screwed up a try at the end of the first half. We screwed up some kicks at the end of the first half. And I love the effort that Ioan Lloyd is putting in, but every now and again, you just need to put the ball into the corner and take the pressure off. We're running literally everything at the minute, and we need a balance somewhere in between, where we are now and Dinky Jones, because that's all Dinky Jones does. You just go, well, we'll play inside their 22. I tell you what, we'll play inside their 5. When we're inside their 5 meters, then we'll start passing the ball. And Ioan Lloyd is a bit like, well, you're like one of those school kids. We can run it from here. They've only got 15 men on the pitch. Go on, I'll take a lot of them. And he's really starting to show that he can. But sometimes I don't want him to. Sometimes it's just clear it, just play the calm game and control it. And I think that's where we lost it.
And that's when. Just wanted to pop in with the Ioan Lloyd. One thing even comes. I mean, me and Hugh have joked about it, how he plays more like a playmaking 12 than a 10, because he just seems to go into contact too often. But
he does.
Even on comms, they're picking up on it. Like I've got many things I could say about the comms on this game from Viaplay, but I'll stick to like Philip Atenti was saying, like, him taking it to the line is great, but he's then out for 2 phases, and then you can see that. So unless. So you either need Johnny McNichol or Steph Evans, or even someone like Joe Roberts coming in and marching and telling the forwards, saying, "Oi, fatty, get in there." I mean, I know none of them are fat anymore these days, but basically saying, "Look, no, get into shape whilst he's on the ground, or he's got to stop going into contact." You know, is that you know it's one of the big issues. You see it with a lot of attacking systems. If you've only got one playmaker, he's taking it to the line and getting put on the ground, and you know he's the only one organising that defence as a forward. You're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to hit him, but I'm not going to be too quick about letting him go. And you know, that's
that's what I'm saying.
We've all three of us have played. We've all been in forwards. First thing they tell you, get the 10 out. Not hurt him out, but just have him down, get him on the floor for a few seconds, because it's just going to break their attack down.
At centre half, I used to just try and break his ribs. That was my job.
I wasn't going to admit it, but yeah,
I'm too slow to get to the outside half, so I just sort of jogged near him.
I'd have a chat with the ref.
Yeah.
So
can I say something about this game? It's not more about the game, but our friend and yours, Hugh Griffin, I want to tell you some of his messages that he sent me. we were both in awful moods after the game. So I messaged him saying, I hope Andrea Piardi gets in the middle seats on a plane that gets delayed massively. In which Hugh sent me a voice note detailing his love for Steph Evans. As a proviso, I've never been a Steph Evans fan since he ended Ben John's career. I know it was accidental, but I loved Ben John as a player, and it was really heartbreaking to see him. It was my first and only time at Parc Scarlets, and I will never ever go back.
On the plus side, it has meant now Ben John has a career now as possibly known as one of the loveliest personal rugby trainers you'll ever know, and
he's a coach
his
now.
Instagram videos are amazing.
This didn't stop, by the way. 24 hours later, out of the blue, I get a message from Hugh saying, going through the stats in the Scarlets game, that was by a long way our best performance so far this season. The pack was sensational. I thought he's being positive. Steph Evans should be in jail.
And he's a fucking
you've got some things to bring up with him later, because I'm guessing you're doing Scarlet Fever tonight.
Yeah, I have to. The thing is you know, you have to look at that game as a whole. We didn't lose that game because Steph Evans got a charge.
That was to be fair, that was a pretty unforgivable kick. But there were several unforgivable kicks that Scarlets made.
We lost that game because we made wrong decisions at critical times. And one of those was Steph Evans could have stood the man up, passed inside, and an easy kick back to the halfway line. So with someone like
Steph Evans' skill is.
Yeah,
his whole thing is the fact that he can beat players in like no space at all.
Yeah,
but you think he'd go for that option,
which he did through the game. But he's, for some reason, for whatever it is, he started kicking, and his kicking isn't accurate enough to be, you know, let's rely on it. So
that's why we don't let Luke Morgan kick.
You shouldn't let Luke Morgan on a pitch, mate, let alone kick, for fuck's sake.
I'll be honest.
Skinhead now. Have you seen him? He played well. This is it. He's cut his hair off, and you know,
Steph
Evans. It's going into your theory, Lee, about
the less
hair
you
and
have,
facial hair needs to be on point.
Well, that's why Steph Evans keeps screwing up, because he's got a fucking rat tail now. So what I will say, I'll finish up on the Scarlets game.
How do you go get a rat tail and a mullet at the same time? I honestly don't. I don't get it.
I despair. What we are missing right now. So one, Johan Lloyd trying to do too much, trying to impress instead of sitting back and just controlling the game, and we're massively missing Lousy. And I think when Lousy comes back, I think there aren't many second rows. So Fafita was playing second row on Saturday, pops up at outside centre and adds pace to the line. And that's just fucking phenomenal stuff. Not only did he add pace to the line, it was fingertip in and out, and you're just like, holy cow. When you've got Lousy doing what he does in the pack, it allows Fafita to go and just destroy the backs, and that's what we need. So that's
you know what scares me as an Ospreys fan is the potential now with Lousy and Alex Craig as a second row partnership. You've almost got like the brawler and the mauler type thing, where and that genuinely for years the Scarlets pack, but they're definitely their second rows in general, haven't frightened me.
Jake
in
Paul
that you've had like
Jake Paul used to scare everyone.
Jake Paul's a scary human, as in whole time. But that second row in particular, when you had like the likes of like Morgan Jones in the second row, and that's no disrespect to Morgan Jones, he wasn't someone who I thought, we should be worried about him. But then all of a sudden you got Alex Craig who's getting through 19 tackles a game. We all know what Sam Losey can do in terms of his ball and hand skills, his offloading game, and going forward. That becomes a really scary prospect. Then when you add in, you've got Leather Barrow who is fantastic, and I've rated him since watching him in Buck Super Rugby. But Teddy Leather Barrow to do all that donkey work in the back row, frees up to a Tuipulotu when he's on it to have his game, and then who you bring in a Fafita as well. Then to all of a sudden the Scarlets pack, the back five in particular, becomes a real weapon for you. Whereas the back row historically for the last 3 years with Callum Mahoney, Fafita, and McLeod when he can be bothered to be fit,
Dan
has
Davis.
been quite. Dan Davis has been great, but you've not had that support from the second row.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you go from having an average second row to having not world class, but definitely really, really high quality URC standard second row.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's coming. That's why I'm not too disappointed about it. I'm disappointed, but not too disappointed. Right, let's while Jamie's not
just
here,
before, because there's one thing that I did allude to it earlier, but one side of the scrum had both their props changed at 37 minutes. So obviously Kemsey Mathias and then the Lions tight head Ruan Drea, both of them went off after 37 minutes.
Yeah, Kemsey Mathias was injured from like 5th minute. I don't know what he's done, but he was strapped up left, right, and centre, and he wasn't comfortable in scrums.
That's all.
Yeah,
it's a bit like Bristol changed their entire front row after half an hour last weekend. Not that it worked because Max Heath is not an impact prop.
Okay, we're running way over time, guys. So let's quickly, while we've got 5 minutes, slag off the Dragons. I actually thought they were quite good, but they were up against Leinster, so there we go. But I thought there were loads of positives coming from the Dragons. I thought up until he went off, I thought Psycho 7 was actually having quite a good game. He just brings energy to the pitch and he brings enthusiasm, and I think players respond to that. But it just took it too far. It's just like, you can see where the frustration is, and he just took it too far. So, but I thought he was having an outstanding game up until that point. And I think it's the same as being the last couple of years. They need a front five. Just think the Dragons need a front five and things will tick. They just haven't got a front five at the minute, and I think that's where they struggle.
I think Tame Basham, again, really good. Wainwright was great before he went off for his HIA. Ryan Woodman came on. I thought he played better than he did against Munster. Who else stood out for me? I thought George Knott was actually quite good. Yeah, like you said, need a front five. Not in, looking at a scrum next week as an Ospreys fan, you get quite excited. Because somehow Rodrigo Jones has regressed as a player. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Rodrigo Jones was a really solid scrummager when he was at Ospreys. He was playing both sides of the scrum, was in the Wales team a lot, and then he's gone to Dragons, and then just seems to have. I don't think he's done a scrum session, Elliot D was also really, really good, and that's the bit that scares me as an Ospreys fan next week. Dragons, like Driving Moore was excellent against the Dragons; they just couldn't finish it off. And obviously, we had troubles against that Driving Moore this week. Elliot D has always been really underrated for me, and I think he really showed why he's top Welsh talent on Sunday.
You seem to have an abundance of hookers at the minute, don't you?
Yeah.
For me, it's just about how thick that bash and then Matthew Screech potentially could have been easy. I think if Basham hadn't gone off for a red, Screech would have seen red for that challenge as well, because I thought that was really bad as well. It was just really frustrating to see that sort of thing slip into the Dragons, because it's just that is the sort of thing you do when you're under pressure. I mean, everyone was we were moaning after the first week how thick Kieran Parker's high tackle was, and then Basham goes and does that.
In a way, I think that's worse than Parker's, because Not
It's
to
worse
defend
because
Kieran Parker at all. You can see what Kieran Parker's trying to do. He's actually trying to make a tackle.
yeah,
He's just got it stupidly wrong. Nowhere in that whole entire passage, and once again, me and Hugh were messing with this, and Yestin from Osprey's area as well. Nowhere in that thing did Basham look like he was going to do anything legal.
yeah. That's what I
Uh,
said. It was just
That's kind
monumentally
of
thick.
part of why people like him, though, isn't it? That's part of his makeup. That bit that goes, he's gonna wind players up. He's gonna be one of those players that just gets on your tits the whole game. If you're playing against him, you're constantly looking, where is he? Can I stick one on him? Can I get on top of him on the floor? Can I stick a slide dig in the ribs and all that kind of stuff? I need to take him out of the game. Your energy is focused on him. Your attitude is focused on him. And he's one of those players that can play 80 minutes at 100% and just be completely we used to call it the 5-second split. You play 5 seconds and you're on to the next 5 seconds and the next 5 seconds, and he's highly motivated. Where some people play like a 30-second split and they'll be on it for 30 seconds and then they'll need time to reset and then they'll be on it again. And he's just constantly on it the whole time. And I think that's why people like him. And Dave Flanagan spoke about him after the game and stuff, but I think, yeah, I'd quite happily have him at the Scarlets if we didn't have two probably top-rated sevens there already. I'd have him at 6, but then we got Plumtree. So yeah, he's just so underrated as a motivator of other people. So that's where I think he is. Right, shall we move on to predictions, gents? Hang on, James is about to throw up off screen. There we go. Lovely. Well done. The shock.
Thank you. Sorry about that, lads.
The shock of having to think about what's coming next weekend. Right. Harley, let's start with you, mate, and we'll do predictions while we're there. So Zebre and Cardiff, expectations.
We've seen some positives from Cardiff this week. There's gone, it seems like the attack's starting to go back in. I don't know where we can improve in terms of personnel, so I imagine we're probably looking at the same 23 again, unless someone's miraculously come fit. But I mean, Zebre are going to be very confident after that win against the Sharks, because everyone beats the Sharks. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal to beat them 35-0 at home.
Oh, fucking hell, here we go.
Jesus Christ.
So I had to get that last win, because I've got a feeling when it comes to time to play them in Durban again, it's not going to be that. So Zebre are looking really good. They're probably, I'd say, in terms of like how much they're spending and their sort of like squad makeup, probably on a par with the Welsh Regions. And they've ran pretty much every team close. This is the first time they didn't score 4 tries. I'm actually quite worried as a Cardiff fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have been less so if it was a cap, but I mean, going out there, they should have beaten Ulster in the first week. They're going to be like, I genuinely dreading this game, because I was talking with Hugh, because he's getting a lot of mentions on this. But we were both saying that Zebre are going to get some big scalps, and we reckon they're going to probably get both. They're going to win both their games against Welsh opposition at home, and I don't want to be the first one to do it.
So, what's your prediction for Zebre Cardiff then?
Me being optimistic, I'm going Zebre by 2.
Zebre by 2. Okay. And your predictions?
And if you find that's on the sheet already.
Yeah, I've seen it. He's one of those guys, James, that like brings in an apple for teacher. Here you go, sir. Look at me. I was a
dickhead. I was a dickhead to teachers at school.
Go on,
so spreadsheets.
Let's go down your predictions then. So your predictions for Dragons and Osprey then, Harley. What have you got?
I'm going Ospreys by 5, purely because it's going to be a Welsh derby. Therefore, it's going to be close and it's going to be horrid. But I think Ospreys are just going to edge it. I feel like they've got that little bit more. I think it's going to come down to a bit of confidence. I wouldn't rule Dragons out, because they have managed to pull some results out at Dave's Parade.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a bit too much for Ospreys. I think Ospreys are going to have a bit too much for Dragons at the moment. I feel like they've got a really nice cohesive team set up at the moment. I mean, I'd be saying that's probably me being on the gentler side to Dragons.
Okay, so Ospreys B5, and then Leinster Scarlets.
Sorry, Lee. I think Leinster by 13. I just the Death Star's fully operational. Again, I'm trying to be. I feel like I'm being nicer to the home sides, to the Welsh side on most of these. Like, even if they put the same team out they did against the Dragons, I think they're still going to cause you a lot of problems. Mainly because I think, similar to last week, it's going to be the decision making and the fact that they've only beaten Cardiff so far this season. I think that's going to play on their head. Whereas Leinster are going to be like, well, of course we're winning this. The Glasgow game was a blip, and that's just how it's going to be.
Okie dokie. So, James, what have you got for Zebra Cardiff, my friend?
I'm going to go Zebra by 5. I think this is going to be a lot tighter game than probably people might predict. Again, Zebra, a really exciting squad. We've seen it. There's not much more to say about them. They just need to shore up that defence. They're still really soft around the edges, giving away stupid penalties, things like that. But they are playing the Welsh team who like to give away stupid penalties and sometimes going to be a bit softer on the edges. So, there's still a lot of excitement to come. I'm trying to think. Who's the lad that went from Gloucester, the Italy international, to Zebra?
Oh, I know the one you mean. He was in England international.
Jake Pelledri.
Yeah,
that's the one.
All right, okay, different one.
I was reminded today that Pelledri is in that Zebra squad.
Is he?
What an inch! Yeah, he is in that Zebra squad. I only found out because I'm friends with his brother, and completely forgot that Jake Pelledri is now at Zebra. And a fit Jake Pelledri is, to come back in that squad with the ball carriers they have, that can cause Zebra. That will cause Cardiff some damage if he's fit, which I'm hoping he is. So yeah, Zebra by 5. I just think it'll be. I think it could be a high-scoring game, but I think it'll just edge in Zebra's favour.
Okay, Dragons Ospreys.
I hate predicting Dragons Ospreys because it's like, you ask any Ospreys fan where they hate playing the most, and it is probably Rodney Parade. We just never seem to play well there. We just seem to, and Dragons will have their annual game where they turn up and be fucking amazing, and they'll play like the 2015 All Blacks. Steph Hughes will somehow turn into 2015 Mar Nonu, and Jared Rosser, will turn into Julian Savia. But no, seriously, I've gone Ospreys by 6. I just think the Dragons' ill discipline will be the Achilles heel for them, especially come scrum time. I'd be very surprised if Dragons get a nudge on the scrum in any way, shape, or form. You can see that Booth clearly rested Tom Boter for the Dragons game. Nicky coming back in, Dewi Lake, or all of a sudden you're thinking, all right, it might not be the straightest line out in the world, but that scrum will be going forward. And then just that taking that defence onwards. 95% tackle completion against Glasgow with 7 missed tackles is probably the best we've had in years. If we can replicate that, then I can't see, Dragons really, really threatening our line. It'll just be penalties. So yeah, and then finally, Leinster versus Scarlets. I was going to go Leinster by less, sorry. But then I had a discussion with my deputy head at school, who's a diehard Leinster fan, and I've now gone Leinster by 20. I also seeing what Leo Cullen said, more Irish internationals come back against Leinster. Yeah, I think this could get ugly. There's certainly a lot. Where can Scarlets target Leinster? Maybe in and around the scrum. The scrum wasn't amazing against the Dragons, but you got to remember the scrumming against the Dragons Leinster, there is an Achilles heel there. Scarlets are just going to find it and exploit it, and it's going to take a lot of soul searching, I think, to come back and get any sort of result there. So I've gone Leinster by 20.
Okie dokie. So Jamie hasn't given us his, but let's assume that he's going to say Dragons are going to lose, and then we'll work the rest out after on that. So for me, I've gone Cardiff by 3. I think there'll be a reaction. I think you've come so close in so many games that there'll be, a little bit more focus and a little bit more, this has got to get over the line. I think the bit that goes against you is this in Zebra, it's in Palmer. So yeah, that's going to count against you. But sometimes when a side's had that long without a win, and then they have one win and they get a little bit, take their eye off the ball or take their foot off the gas or whatever just for a week, and I think he might be lucky. So yeah, I think the two will work together. So I've gone Cardiff by 3. Ospreys and Dragons, yeah, I've got exactly the same as yourself, James. I think that they always pull out one game in the season, and it's usually against Scarlets. So yeah, I'm hoping that if they pull out one game against you, that means that they won't have it against us. So I'm going to go Dragons by 5. If nothing else, it'll wind Jamie up because he can't stand it when people start predicting that Dragons win and start having a bit of confidence in them. But I genuinely don't think that the Dragons are that far away as everyone believes. It's such a small margins, and I think once those small margins start coming, they will start, playing some decent rugby again. So yeah, Dragons by 5, and then Leinster by 10, just because I just couldn't predict myself. Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to predict any worse than that, in all honesty. And I know it's going to be a hard game. And I say, it's Leinster. Where do you look at? I hope if somebody from the kickoff is just an almighty punch up and the referee goes, right, 3 Leinster players off, and then we'll go, right, okay, now we're in the game, boys. Now we're in the game. Or something like that.
You'll only lose by 5 there, then.
Yeah. It's that Joe Nalungu thing. Why did they score 3 points? I got sent off. It's yeah. So that's my predictions for the weekend. I was going to run down the predictions league, but we haven't really got time, guys. So there's plenty of time in the season for that. But safe to say, Harley first, Jamie second, me third, and James in 4th. The only guy that can make Carwin's predictions look normal. So well done on that. So yeah, all done, gents. We're finito for tonight. So thank you once again for your time and your effort. So me and Harley are now going to go and do a Scarlets and a Cardiff pod. It's intense. Monday nights are intense. Yeah,
the life of a podcaster, eh?
It is, boys. It is. Right. Thank you once again, gents. Have a good week. Enjoy your rugby. We'll catch up. We'll do it all again next week. All the best, guys. Ta-da.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Wrap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week with more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.